So it's worth a try.
Okay, Councillor Thomas, is that an old hand or a new hand?
Just to say again, thank you, Barbara, but it was Ollie Bayliss that I wrote to in the first instance, not necessarily about Trefusis Park, but you will be aware of the issues in Clinton Road at that establishment, and there are a couple of others that I've been involved with, not necessarily in my own patch. And the point I'm making is that I thought that was the route that we were supposed to follow, not send an email directly to the sector inspector, who's probably irritated by the minutiae.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. I think all we can probably do is just monitor how it's going. We've got another Safer Towns meeting in 2 weeks' time. You will note, if you've read my mayor's announcements, I have said that I think it might be helpful if a member of Redruth Town Council staff were to attend those meetings, so that at least there was a bit of continuity there. I noticed that Camborne sends somebody to everyone, so I just think that might be useful. Has anybody got anything else on police issues? No. Okay, thank you. Item 7 is to receive reports from the Cornwall Council ward members on their work within the Redruth parish. I see that no reports were actually attached to the papers. Do either of the Cornwall councillors that are here want to briefly say anything? I'm conscious that we don't want to be too long. Councillor Ellenbrook.
Yeah, very briefly. Good piece of news is that the Cultural Consortium have been successful in their bid to do some preliminary work in Redruth, and it will be looking at a creative response to the high streets, both its past and its future, working specifically with young people. There's a call for bids for artists to start doing this work, but the plan is throughout all of the high street has for Redruth is to very much engage with our young people. The town is theirs for the future. It's not something that should be looking back. It should be very much looking forward. So this is our first attempt during COVID, which is always a problem, to actually engage with a diverse group of young people to start talking about the town's past, but more particularly about the town's future and what they want to see for it. So I think that is really positive. And the only other thing that it's really in Councillor Barnes' ward, not mine, but members may be interested to know that there is a pre-application advice gone in to Cornwall Council for Trengwyth. So members may like to have a look at that planning application if you, or rather that outline, to see what they think they would like to do there. I have grave concerns about access onto Penryn Street. We all know what it was like in the past. Reading through what they're proposing, it looks as if they're going to still be planning to have the access certainly into the site from Penryn Street, which I think is going to be a big problem again. But that's just a heads up. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I've got Councillor Biscoe with her hand up. Was this to do with Councillor Ellenbrook's report, or was this a previous hand?
It was a previous hand, Councillor Reid. It's been reported to me and to the police that there is a great deal of antisocial behaviour and vehicle damage in Bassett Street, which you probably are personally aware of, Deborah, as it's the top of your road. There's been CCTV done, been reported. The videos and everything have gone to the police, but unfortunately the gentlemen or people who were involved in this have been very, very clever and cunning. The police are aware and they want everybody in the neighbourhood. I think this has gone to Ollie Bayliss. I'm sure he's aware of it, because there have been numerous reports from numerous people because the car damage up there now is getting quite serious. The last car I heard had £2,500 worth of damage done to it, and it was only parked there for an hour. So, and the person is also quite renowned for, as people have been talking to me, that he's not very good at driving without having a drink in his hand. That's all. I think I should draw your attention to that. It is an ongoing matter. There is in hand with the police, but the person or persons who are doing this are being very, very crafty about it. That's all I know. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll make sure I mention it at the next Safer Towns meeting, but it wasn't mentioned today, so that's all I can say, really. Councillor Ellenbrook, were you wanting to come back to Councillor Biscoe?
I do apologise, that's an old hand.
Okay, no problem. So I have Councillor Thomas next.
Oh, for goodness sake, go away. Oh, yeah.
You need to unmute, Ian.
Beg your pardon. I said I'm glad to hear that Barbara's an old hand. So, despite COVID, life goes on. The grass and weeds are still growing. People still park on yellow lines and pavements. So, antisocial behaviour has seemed to have raised. So the pressures on councillors are as great as they ever are, I guess. We haven't got a holiday. But what is really frustrating is the availability of officers and what I'd describe as a breakdown in communication. So from my perspective, not only is democracy suffering, but our accessibility and communications aren't that great either. So just the point really that COVID in itself is not doing away with problems, it's actually increasing them. In terms of what was I going to say, that Barbara said something that triggered something in my mind, which has gone completely out of it now, so I'll pass. Thank you.
Okay, and I saw Councillor Barnes has now joined the meeting, and he did have his hand up. Did you want to say something, Stephen?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I've had quite a busy time of it lately, and tomorrow I think I got 5 online meetings, and so that's going to be fun, and it will start tomorrow at 8 o'clock with my little chat with Kate Canale. So start with the big ones, that's what I say. And one of the things I'm going to speak to her about is PERDA, because the last time we had a council election and they had a PERDA, some of the officers decided to put in the speed humps down at Foundry Row. And I had spoke to the previous incumbent who said, well, she didn't know nothing about it. So the officers tend to do whatever they want. So I intend to put down a marker saying that I expect more openness and transparency from the council. I'm not sure if I'll get it, but not sure if anyone will get it. But that I want the officers to, during PERDA, not to think this is a free-for-all to do whatever they want. And that if they do that, I expect her to take disciplinary action. We had the full council at Cornwall Council last week, and I supported the fight to have greater democracy at Cornwall Council, and thankfully we won the day. So they will be looking more at hybrid solutions to council meetings. So that's good. And I also asked a question regarding developers, whether they still are meant to pay a bond so that if they clear off, the work can be completed. So I asked several questions around the same topic. Who decides that they don't have to do it or whatever. So I am expecting a full reply from the portfolio holder, Tim Dwelly. And as Barbara Ellenbrook has said, the Tranguith planning application has come in, where basically they want to knock down the rear of, which is the more modern building in Tranguith, and put in loads of houses. Although I thought it had been more beneficial to divide up some of that building rather than just simply knock it all down. But when it's only the taxpayers' money, they don't seem to worry too much. And I shall be going down to sometime this week to speak with the St. Rumans Club, who were most likely to be adversely affected by such a development. And and I do have concerns about what they intend to do in there. So I hope that when it comes up before the Town Council's Planning Committee, that members turn up and make their views known. I still have quite a few people ringing me up regarding personal issues, and I got one I've got to take up as soon as this meeting finishes. So it's onwards and upwards, really. That's all from me, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Barnes. Has anybody got any questions for Councillor Barnes? Councillor Ellenbrook?
Yeah, just to be clear, it's only a pre-app, so it won't actually come. This particular one won't come to us as Town Council. It is only a pre-app, Stephen. So we need to be. Well,
yeah, it might be a pre-app now, but when it comes, yeah. I think it's important that people let their views be known. It's been listed with the Cornwall Council. So members can have a look, let their views be known, either directly, either directly through the Town Council or through Cornwall Council. The trouble is with these pre-app things, it tend to be a done deal, and before you know it, you're shafted before you start. So I don't agree with pre-apps, I never have, and I think we can see that from what's happened out at Skirby, but I certainly am not in favour of them. I think people should put their plans forward and they let them either sink or swim, really.
Okay, I've got Councillor Thomas wants to ask a question.
No, I don't actually. Just I was hoping you'd indulge me, Chairman. I'll just remember what it was that I wanted just to mention, because members may recall that some time ago, a gentleman attended, I think it was a planning meeting, to complain about the abuse of the trees in Trewergy. I've had a particular issue that I'm dealing with, an enforcement issue, where once again people are using heavy plant vehicles to crush the roots of trees with TPOs, and I just want to make council aware that we need to be really cautious, because if you remember, the gentleman attended came out with a profound statement that the trees in Redruth are the lungs of our town, and it's something I've never forgotten, and I just want everybody to be aware and cautious of what's going on in the name of development. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to item 8, which is to receive a report from the Community Link Officer, Ms Charlotte Caldwell. See report attached, and I'm very glad that Charlotte is here to speak to her report. So the floor is yours, Charlotte.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Good evening, everybody. Hopefully you've all seen my report. Happy, of course, as usual, to take any questions. First of all, just like to remind everybody that the next Community Network panel is on the 6th of October. And we've got the head of planning, Louise Wood, coming to talk, because there've been quite a lot of questions around the new government advice on the relaxation of planning rules and how that links in with NDPs post-COVID, during COVID, so that will be interesting. And also we've got the assistant and principal of Cornwall College coming to talk as well. So if you haven't already RSVP, please try and come along to that, because it should be interesting. It's 5:45 till 7 and it's online. One thing I did say in my report that I promised I would cover verbally at tonight's meeting, and I'm speaking not as an officer of the council, in my voluntary capacity now, as a director of the Youth Cafes Cornwall CIC, along with other directors who I see are here this evening. As you know, we had to close the Youth Cafe due to COVID. Once the schools closed, we had no option but to do that. But we were working with our subcontractor, CRCC, to look at a plan for doing outreach during the winter months. Essentially, initially outside, particularly down at Crescent-Kernow and in other areas across Redruth, but also we were hoping to use the Redruth Youth Centre, which is a much bigger venue for indoor activities, so that we could still continue to deliver the CLLD contract. So it was with great surprise on the 8th of September when we got an email from CRCC saying that they no longer wished to do any work with us and they wanted to sever the contract. And it was a 3-year contract that we had with them, so we were extremely shocked and dismayed. Obviously, there's a lot of background to that, which I won't go into tonight in tonight's meeting, but obviously happy to if anybody wants to contact me separately. So basically, we had to let CLLD, our funder, know that we couldn't fulfil the ESF, the European Social Fund element of the contract. We'd already fulfilled the ERDF side of the European Fund, which was to refurbish the centre above Warren's and also to buy the minibus. So that all still stays. But obviously now we are without a provider and we cannot carry on with the contract. So we're in a position where last week I wrote 4 funding bids, one for 32,000, one for 54,500, one for 4,000 and one for £750. Because what we're looking to do is to recommence at the latest on the 1st of April next year with general youth work at the Youth Cafe. But if we can start outreach earlier than that, of course, you know that we will. This is a situation not of our doing. We've been forced into this through a subcontractor where there's been quite a lot of staffing changes recently. So all I would say is I will keep you, and obviously the directors will keep you fully informed of progress, because we know how acute the issues are in terms of ASB in the town, and we're desperate to do something. And we were really hoping that this week we'd have been able to commence that. So it's hugely disappointing. So I will obviously keep you all informed, but happy, of course, to take any questions.
Has anybody got any questions for Charlotte? I mean, obviously, it's hugely disappointing for yourself and for all the other people that have worked so hard to make, the Youth Cafe happen. And it, will be a very unfortunate timing-wise that we, when there is such a need in the town for outreach, that we aren't able to offer it. So I really hope that we can resolve something quickly. Councillor Barnes.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask Charlotte, what's happened to that money that's now been withdrawn?
So in terms of the ESF contract, we only get the money once we put a claim in. So we've actually put in 2 claims, which took us up to March, and we've been paid for that work that's been done in the Youth Cafe since we opened last September. We were about to move forwards with claim 3, where we would then reimburse CRCC for. We always get paid after we've done the work, so we're not out of pocket, but it just means we can't claim. It's about £100,000 we cannot claim because they've pulled the contract. So that's sat there. what CLLD have said on Friday, and I know you and Stephen couldn't make the meeting, but Barbara did attend. No, sorry, Barbara couldn't make it. We had a number of other directors. I do apologise. We've had so many meetings. Basically, what CLLD have said is that if we can come back to them in January of 2022, they will keep that money back if we can reapply for it once we've got a new provider. So they're not going to reallocate it to any other projects, but they're hugely disappointed, and I have to say, quite shocked at the fact that CRCC have given back word on this contract, 1 year into a 3-year deal, because they'll lose money, because we put our projections in based on their costings that they put into us. So we were never making any money on the deal. We were just kind of passporting the money through to CRCC because they were providing the professional youth work, if that makes sense.
So can I just ask if you've been given any reason as to why they've taken this sudden decision?
Well, they sent us an email, which I have sent on to all the directors of the Youth Cafe CIC, and they said that despite the fact they were hoping and planning to do the outreach, they didn't feel that with the COVID carrying on as it is, that they felt that was viable in the winter months. They also said that they'd reassigned their staff that really was supposed to be linked to the Youth Cafe onto other projects, which was a little bit of a shock. So, yes, they put it down to COVID. I don't know if Councillor Ellenbrook wants to add anything, because I know you've been involved in a couple of the discussions recently.
Well, only to say that I echo the thing that it's really disappointing, but we are where we are. We have to deal with what we've got to deal with. We are meeting again on Wednesday, aren't we?
This week.
To discuss further plans. So it doesn't mean that Hideaway 77 is going to close, nor does it mean that we are going to stop attempting to get the funding to do the outreach, because we all know how very important that work actually is. So we're down but not beaten, I think, is probably the best way to describe it. Yeah,
and if these 4 funding bids come good, we'll be able to, hopefully get a provider in, place hopefully after Christmas. So I say 1st of April, we hope is the latest we can get something up and running. Absolutely not closing.
No.
Okay. Has anybody else got any questions for Charlotte? No. Okay, thanks, Charlotte. Of course, you're welcome to stay as always, or go and have some supper.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for all of your understanding, and we'll definitely obviously keep you fully updated.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 9 is to receive the Town Mayor's announcements. You will have all had my announcements in the form of a written report. So essentially it's whether or not anyone has any questions for me from that report. We seem to have mistakenly had the recommendation from a couple of months ago tagged on to the end. Don't quite know how that has appeared there, but there is actually there are no recommendations from this report. It should just be noted. So unless anybody has got anything that they wish to ask me or to add.
Noted.
Thank you. Move on to item 10, which is to confirm the minutes of 10/1, the monthly meeting of the council held on the 3rd of August. Could somebody move it for me, please? Councillor Brown. Could somebody second that for me, please? Councillor Mrs. Davidson. Does the clerk want to go round and just
I'll go around very quickly. Councillor Barnes.
Yeah.
Agree.
Mrs. Biscoe, you're abstaining as you weren't at the meeting. Councillor Brown.
In favour.
Mrs. Davidson.
In favour.
Mrs. Ellenbrook.
Support.
Page.
In favour.
Reeve,
Support.
Thomas,
4.
Trigana.
4.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 11 is to receive the town clerk's report. Peter?
You've all got my report with the papers. Just a couple of very quick items. Cobweb tours, which you'll know Mr. Tremaine discussed with us at the last meeting. Because of current guidance, the proposals that Will outlined at the last meeting are currently postponed until March of next year. And the other item is the casual vacancy, Redruth North. As you will all know, we've got a part 2 item later in the agenda where we will consider suitable applicants. That's the town clerk's report.
Anybody got any questions for Peter? Thank you. Okay, item 12 is to receive correspondence. Correspondence schedule is attached. The first item is planning white paper and to consider a response. A link has been put on the papers for you to go and have a look. I don't know how many of you have actually been and had a look. I know Councillor Ellenbrook has done so and she has her hand up. So I will go to her first.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's really important that we all we try and have a town council response to this. It's a bit like the Parson's egg. There's some good stuff in there. There's some stuff that is not so good. I think the major point here is this is actually consultation, and I can tell you that up in Westminster there are MPs who are equally concerned about some aspects of this proposal rather. So I don't know how we do it, but I do think it would be good if we had some sort of a town council response to it. There are various briefing papers that I've been given because I'm a member of the Economy Overview and Scrutiny Committee. If members would find that useful, I will see if I can trawl around amongst my heaps of emails that sit on my computer and forward them on to the clerk for forwarding on to members of the planning committee, if that would help, including some very good initial thoughts from Louise Wood, who's the principal planning officer for Cornwall Council.
Thank you, Barbara. So I specifically asked for this to be put on full council agenda rather than planning, because I think it's really important that all councillors actually have a look at this document. And as Barbara said, there are some good things, but there are also equally some things that could cause some real issues in the future if they were to go ahead. Because it's a consultation document, we've got until the 29th of October to formulate a response. What I would suggest, if everybody is in agreement, that everybody takes the time to have a look at the document and they email anything that they want to be included in a response to the clerk, and we look at putting the item on the next planning agenda, and that the planning committee formulate the response that they wish to take forward on this document, and they let all councillors have a copy of that. So if anyone's got anything they want to add to it, that they can do so. So I don't know how that sits with everybody else, but that seems to me to be the logical way forwards.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I'm proposing that's what we do. Councillor Barnes is seconding. If there's anybody who's not going to support that, could you just let me know by raising your hand? Other than that, I'll take it as agreed that that's what we do. But I would absolutely urge you to go and have a look at the document, please, because it is very important, and the changes that they make will affect the future of planning for years to come. So it is extremely important.
Mayor, could I ask members if they've got comments to let me have them by Tuesday of next week, please? So you've all got a week to have a look at the white paper and let me have your comments so that they can be included in the papers going out for planning next week.
Do you
say the document itself is quite helpful in that it includes questions, because anybody can respond to this document. A member of the public could respond to the document. There are 26 questions that the document poses throughout the contents. So by reading the questions, you're kind of getting a good idea about the sort of thing that it's going to affect. And that might make it easier for those of you that are not so conversant with planning to actually look at it and see what it is you think we need to be putting into the response. Sorry, Barbara.
That's all right. Sorry, Deborah. Do you want me to see if I can find what we've had from Cornwall Council and circulate it, particularly what Louise Wood has said?
I think that would be very helpful. Yeah. Okay. There is also kicking around somewhere a small presentation that was given, a briefing that I went to a couple of weeks ago, and I think the slides are available, Peter, so you might want to check that. It just gives a very quick overview of what is in the document.
Yeah, I'll look. There's a presentation with the stuff that Louise gave us as well, so I will do. The other thing to say, if I may, is that this will also have a huge impact on neighbourhood plans, yes, potentially. And I think we again, as we're going through the tortuous process, we need to be aware of that and perhaps have some responses to how important neighbourhood plans are, because they seem to have taken them kind of off the boil somewhat in my reading of it.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. It will require Cornwall Council to develop a new local plan if this legislation is passed. So if they develop a new local plan, that then impacts on all the neighbourhood development plans that are already in place. So it's a massive undertaking. Okay, and the other item on the correspondence is Cornwall Council Community Governance Review update. And I'll hand back to Peter.
There's nothing to add. It's just giving members an update as to where Cornwall Council are. If you'll recall, our submission vis-a-vis the small area up around the boundary between us and Lanner, but clearly that isn't going to progress. But I just thought I'd give members an update as to where we were.
Okay. Has anybody got any questions, Councillor Ellenbrook?
Yes. Sorry, me again. The indications I've seen from Councillor Brown, not our Councillor Brown, the other one, is that it's quite possible. Yeah, the little short one with the grey hair. Is that it's possibly unlikely that these boundary reviews will actually come into place in time for the election next year. So it could possibly be that we're getting ourselves very anxious about something that actually won't happen until potentially 4 years' time from this. That's my understanding. Okay, but still, we should know about it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 13 is to receive the minutes as reports of the following committee meetings and to accept and approve the recommendations and resolutions contained within of. And I'm going to take 13.1, 13.2 and 13.3 together, which is the Planning Committee of the 9th of March 2020, Interim Planning of the 27th of July 2020 and Planning Committee of the 17th of August 2020.
So moved.
Councillor Brown is moving. Could somebody second that, please? Councillor Page, thank you very much. Councillor Davidson, are you just wanting to also approve? Okay, thank you. I've got everybody wanting to second it. Is there anybody that wants to either abstain or object?
Nope.
No. Thank you. I'll take that as read. And 13.4 and 13.5 together. The Amenities Committee of the 2nd of March 2020 and the Amenities Committee of the 7th of September 2020. Councillor Davidson moving. Councillor Mrs. Biscoe seconding. No. Councillor Mrs. Biscoe, you want to say something?
I have to abstain on one because I wasn't there.
No,
it
doesn't matter if you're there or not. We're just taking them as reports.
Okay.
So I've got Councillor Mrs. Davidson proposing. Councillor Biscoe, are you seconding? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Anybody wishing to object or abstain? No. Okay. That's great. Thank you very much. Item 14 is to receive a report on the potential implications on the council budget 2020 to 21 due to COVID-19. See report attached. And I will hand over to the town clerk.
Hopefully you've all had the chance to read my brief report on potential implications of budgets going forward. I just really want to bring this to your attention at the moment that things could be somewhat difficult in the next couple of years or so, but I propose to go into it in a lot more detail at the next Audit and Accounting Governance Committee meeting later on this month. But hopefully you've got the gist of where we think we might be going from my report. Unless anybody's got any questions, ask that it be noted.
Has anybody got any questions for the town clerk? Councillor Brown?
I request that it be noted, please.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, and then we're on item 15, Cornwall Council Climate Change Development Plan document. You should have been circulated the response that was submitted to Cornwall Council on behalf of the CPIR Network Climate Change Group. It doesn't require anything from us other than for you to have the information. It's a fairly lengthy document. I hope you've all managed to have a chance to look at it, but it was discussed by the Climate Change Group in quite great detail, and the responses were taken from every town and parish council that's in the network area. Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, I couldn't help notice that this flies under the CPIR Community Network Panel banner, and with all due respect, I thought it would have been appropriate or perhaps polite to have shared it with the panel before its submission, if indeed it is, if you like, a subgroup of the CPIR Community Network Panel. But it's already been submitted by the look of it. So hopefully it'll be brought to the next community network meeting, at least for some sort of validation. But as I say, I would have thought it was more appropriate, more polite to have shared it prior to its submission. Thank you.
I take your point, Councillor Thomas. However, I don't know if you recall at the last network panel, because of the submission date that was required by Cornwall Council, it was actually agreed by the network panel that the Climate Change Group would do the submission on their behalf, because it had to be submitted by last Friday. That was the last final day that it could be sent in. It has been sent to Charlotte for circulation to everybody and for inclusion at the network panel next week. So if anybody's got any other questions on it. No. Okay. Councillor Barnes, are you? No. Okay. Thank you. Now on to item 16, to receive and approve the schedule of accounts. Councillor Barnes, are you moving?
Yes.
Thank you. Somebody like to second that? Councillor Brown? Thank you very much. Is anybody going to
still recovering?
Everyone's now just got to take a moment to recover from that. Is there anybody that would like to object or abstain? No, I'll take that as everybody in favour then. And we now move on to item 17, which is to exclude the press and public from the meeting for the remaining item of business, as their presence would be prejudicial to the public interest by virtue of the confidential nature of the subject matter, and on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the 1972 Local Government Act. Somebody move that for me, please. Councillor Page, seconded by Councillor Biscoe. I'm assuming everybody is in favour. Before you all log out, can I just make you all aware that you've got to log back in again on the second invitation that you received from Abby. So please don't log back in on the same one that you had for this meeting, because you will find yourself sitting in a room with nobody else. You need to go. Sorry, Peter, go on.
Can I just say, Mr. Tremaine and Mr. Richards, I will phone you individually to log into that second invite.
So is everybody clear on what they now have to do? If they're not, could you please put your hand up now? Councillor Barnes?
Yes. How long have we got to do this? Because it took me quite a while to get in onto this meeting this evening, and I started in good time.
As quickly as you possibly can.
Oh,
Councillor Barnes, I am available near my phone. Should you?
thank you.
Councillor Mrs Davidson?
So we go out on leave and then come in on the second invitation.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, is everybody else okay with that?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so if everybody could now leave the meeting, please.
Yeah.